Hello, you're watching Reporters on France 24. I'm James Creedon. Now, this week we travel to the Gulf states, where every day on social media, hundreds of people post videos of themselves with various wild cats. Now, there's some basic thrill-seeking involved, but for many, it's also a sign of prestige. These tigers, lions and leopards are often poached in the Horn of Africa and sold illegally to rich families on the Arabian Peninsula. Now, we're joined now by Miyuki Draws, who filmed this week's Reporters. Miyuki, thanks for talking to us. Tell us first off how you got interested in this story.
What brought our attention to this topic is the huge impact this illegal trade has on biodiversity. We decided to focus on one specific species, the cheetahs, because compared to the number of existing individuals, it's one of the most trafficked species in the world. NGOs estimate that every year 300 cubs are taken from the Horn of Africa to the Gulf, which is more than half the total number of cheetah cubs born every year.
Okay, Miyuki, we'll take a look at your report now and we'll discuss a little bit of what we're about to see afterwards.
Venus is a 3-month-old orphan. This cheetah was recently snatched from the claws of traffickers who were about to sell her abroad. We're in Somalia, at the biggest refuge for cheetahs in Africa, which was founded by an American NGO. These vets examine Venus for injuries caused by transportation.
And that was a part of the cubs, like I said, which had different ages, cable tied, hands cable tied in small wooden crates.
What's in here, huh?
The cables binding her paws together have caused swelling. Separated from her mother, who's highly likely to have been killed by the traffickers, this female has only a 30% chance of survival in captivity.
Okay.
If it was a broken foot, I'd expect it to be a lot more sore.
Let me get a picture of both of them next to each other. Cheetahs are an animal that are a very delicate animal. And so when they are being sold illegally to the wrong people and they only have a lifespan of a year or two, the people think, oh, they're cute, and then they go back and get more. So you can just see the way that they're being drained out of the wild, which is just, it's devastating to the wild population.
And what that will do is it help bring the swelling down.
Her injuries can be treated, but now she's accustomed to contact with humans, Venus can never return to the savannah again. Incapable of breeding in captivity, cheetahs are heading for extinction. There are only around 7,000 left in the wild. The fastest animal in the world has become a symbol of a trafficking industry worth around $20 billion a year, largely responsible for emptying out the planet's remaining wild spaces. One of the roots of this illegal trade starts here, in countries in the Horn of Africa. The animals are sent to Yemen and then on to be sold in the Gulf kingdoms. Dubai is known as the pinnacle of Middle Eastern excess, with the highest tower in the world and its luxury 7-star hotels. Wild animals are among the most sought-after status symbols here. Many rich Emiratis are desperate to have their own collection. Even members of the royal family pose with big cats in online videos, anything that will generate the right buzz on social media. One of the best-known Instagrammers here is called Humed Al-Bakaish. His trademark is posing alongside his collection of animals, like this bear on a Lamborghini.
You put your hand like that inside his mouth. After that, you look at his teeth like this. And then you've made a nice video.
This multi-millionaire owns his own private zoo. That gives him rights under Emirati law to keep any animal he wants, including endangered species.
Yeah, you can come and massage him.
Every day, for €250, around a dozen people come to be entertained here. They pose with Bengal tigers or feed Madagascan lemurs. On the edge of the desert, these exotic animals, used to living in tropical forests or the frozen steppes, have ended up as prisoners in this tiny zoo. We filmed Humed Al-Bakej while building his animal park, very proud of his caged animals.
His claws are not very long. They only started to grow last month. Of course, they love the forest, but they love me more because I give them more food than they find in the forest.
Over the past 15 years, he's been buying animals across the planet, from South Africa to Russia to Thailand.
I have everything I want. I have the cars I want, the money I want, the animals I want. I have all the right papers to own these animals. Having a private zoo allows me to keep them because, as you can see, our infrastructure is good. It's better than a traditional zoo in terms of infrastructure, food, the best of everything for the animals.
Humed says he has papers for each animal, an unverifiable claim. In Dubai, nothing is more simple than buying a wild animal without any legal controls. In a few clicks on one site for classified ads in the pet section, we find a number of protected species for sale. Contacted by message, the sellers are quick to offer us a range of big cats. This man is offering a 4-month-old cheetah for €3,500. This woman has a whole litter of white lion cubs for sale at €2,500 each. Where they've all come from is left vague, but the seller's willing to ship to any address in the Emirates. There are even online tutorials on how to look after wild animals at home.
Hello everyone. Knowing how to trim a lion's claws is very important. That means you can take them anywhere.
The hub of cheetah trafficking is in Somaliland. This autonomous region of Somalia reclaimed its independence 30 years ago. Last year, the authorities launched an unprecedented wave of arrests of wildlife traffickers. This morning, at a court in the capital Hargeisa, the first trial has started. In the dock sit a group of small-time smugglers and dealers. After years of turning a blind eye, Somaliland authorities have started to take protection of biodiversity seriously. The traffickers risk being sent to prison. The judge has even summoned members of the NGO to present the cheetahs in court as evidence.
3 of them, is that right?
These smugglers confessed to buying the animals from an Ethiopian poacher on the border, hoping to sell them for $1,500 each. But a potential client turned out to be a police informant.
First they arrested everyone else and put them in a cell. Then they came and arrested me.
We kept the animals in a cage for 4 days and fed them milk. I'm used to driving back and forward to the border. Since there was demand for cheetahs, we found a supplier on the other side to sell some to us. I went to get them and I brought 2 young cousins to help me with the animals.
A representative for the Environment Minister who gave the nod to this series of arrests is also present in the chamber. Abdinasir Saeed keeps photos from each operation.
This also when we are arrested, this for a car. It takes process, it takes time. He's sending me for the pictures. So then we just work with I just pick up with the police and then we are arrested. The local people, they told us that the smugglers give them between $500 to $350 each car. It's a lot of money. It's very big business.
The head of the group is sentenced to 4 years in prison, with his accomplices each getting a year behind bars.
The court is adjourned. Thank you.
Unfortunately, these animals are condemned to stay in captivity. Deprived of their wild instincts, they must be guarded day and night. In the suburbs of Hargeisa, Laurie Marker, the cheetah conservationist, is supervising the work to build more enclosures. The authorities have given her more than 60 big cats seized over just 2 years. These animals will require a lot of attention if they are to reach adulthood.
They got calcium and stuff? How much? A lot of these cats, when they come in, we end up with very fragile bones. A lot of the animals have leg deformities. We've had animals that have come in that have had past broken bones. And so they have to have a calcium supplementation.
This privately funded NGO spends €7,000 a month just to feed the animals. Mature adults eat 1.5 kilos of goat or camel meat a day.
He's trying to get one of them.
Maltreated by smugglers, more than half of these cheetahs would have likely died before reaching their destination. All bear scars from their captivity.
Hey. He was missing half of his tail. When we rescued him at the time, it was quite fresh. I think it was chopped off. For what reason, I don't know. He's very, very kind of skittish and scared of any loud noise. It just startles him. So those are kind of the main issues. So you see that any noise, and it's just. So I think a lot of it is the mental trauma that he's been through as well.
Now the NGO is in discussions with the Somaliland authorities to create the country's first natural park, so that these wild creatures don't have to spend the rest of their lives in cages. Cheetahs need wide open spaces in order to thrive. But they also need to be far from the herds of camels or goats that are the livelihoods for local shepherds. About 30 kilometers from the capital, the savannah stretches to the horizon in every direction. Any journey here has to be made with an armed escort for security reasons. Laurie Marker and her team are visiting the site proposed by the Environment Minister, an old building dating from British colonial times.
But this is basically where they thought that we could, maybe set up a base because there's structure.
The first positive signs are that gazelles, warthogs and baboons can be seen fleeing when we arrive, meaning that game, food for predators, has not completely disappeared. Laurie Marker has already led programs to reintroduce cheetahs into the wild in Namibia, a success she would like to replicate here.
Prey base is also very vulnerable or endangered in this country as well. So both of the habitat and the prey have to be looked at, and obviously grow a prey base before you can put back a species back out into the wild.
The reserve is due to open within a year. In the meantime, the NGO has started raising awareness in local schools. But as long as the money from oil kingdoms continues to drain forests of wildlife around the world, these young Somalilanders are now unlikely to ever see cheetahs in the wild.
Okay, we're joined now by Miyuki Draws from Beirut. Miyuki, you filmed that report with Sylvain Lepetit. Tell us a little bit more about this trafficking of big cats. We know it's lucrative, but unlike, for example, drug trafficking, it's not really policed, is it? It's kind of very, very unregulated. Tell us more about that.
I think one of the main reasons for this is that it's considered by police departments as less dangerous for human societies compared to drugs or weapon trafficking. The second reason is it's that actually this traffic is very diverse. So you would have people transporting live animals to become pets, but you also have poachers hunting and killing animals either to eat them or to transform some of their body parts, for example, into powders or liquids. And then those products being sold as potentially aphrodisiac. For example, we can all think of rhino's horns.
Now, we saw in the report as well, one of the subjects sort of proudly showing off in front of the camera, no real sense of what he was doing, that there was anything wrong with it or that the animals might be suffering in cages. Is this legal in the United Arab Emirates? Do they have a sense of total impunity as a result?
It's kind of a gray area. A few years ago in the Gulf, it was super easy for anyone to own wild animals at their homes. And then there were several accidents. For example, in Kuwait, a lion mauled a Filipino maid. In Qatar, and that's the bonus I invite you to watch, there were these images of a tiger wandering around on a highway. So after several incidents, the authorities, and especially in the United Arab Emirates, decided to pass a law. So nowadays, owners have to register their private zoo. And with that status come rules and potentially controls. The problem is, as you could see it in the report, that those rules are not being very strictly implemented.
Now, you were in Somaliland and its capital, Hargeisa, to witness a trial that's taking place there. Now, when and why did Somaliland start fighting back against the trade, and do they have the means to fight it effectively, Miyuki?
I would say 2-3 years ago. You might know Somaliland is a region that demanded independence from Somalia in the 90s. So nowadays it's a de facto autonomous state with its own currency and government, but they're not recognized by the international community. And so that makes them not, they cannot ask for many international aid because often being not recognized. So for them in this context, to tackle some issues like biodiversity protection is a very smart move, a diplomatic move. It's a way of raising awareness about their country and in a very positive way.
Miyuki Draws, thank you for those insights into that illicit trafficking of big cats. Miyuki Draws in Beirut. That brings us to the end of this edition of Reporters. Thanks for watching and do stay tuned to France 24.